Hey internets, time for a quick rant. So one thing a lot of ideas, often bad or otherwise really unrealistic ideas, tend to skip over is the concept of praxis. Now, praxis is basically how you take your idea or philosophy or concept, etc., and then you link that idea into objective reality. So you can think of it as it's your plan to bring your idea from theory into action, into actual practice. For example, let's say two people crash land on an island, and let's just say it's a husband and his wife, and they get an idea, and that idea is it'd be really nice to not die. Let's make sure that we don't die while waiting for somebody to hopefully notice that we're on this island. Hopefully someone will come rescue us. And so then their praxis of enacting the idea of how do we not die would be coming up with a plan saying, okay, well, let's say the husband knows how to fish and how to build things, and his lady is a botanist, which gives her a basic idea of what plants are edible and which are not. They also need shelter, so the guy knocks down some branches and gathers some logs until they have a makeshift little hut. So the praxis of this couple to meet their theory that, hey, not dying would be very nice, is effectively to temporarily return to a hunter-gatherer lifestyle on this island for however long until a rescue boat or plane finds them so that they have food and shelter and they can figure out how to build a fire or something, so to both keep themselves warm, which just further aids in not dying, as well as greatly increasing their chances of being noticed by said rescue team. These are all just the actions they came up with to meet their idea that not dying would be a good thing. And that's just a general easy to understand example of praxis. It's really just your plan of action. What are we going to actually do to make our idea a reality? Once you start asking that question, you have begun working on your praxis. This isn't exactly a controversial subject on its face. However, where the controversy does come in, and why understanding and paying attention to praxis of ideas is relevant to the clown world of politics, is that again, it can help you weed out the trash. A lot of people out there with bad ideas will often just completely skip having any kind of praxis whatsoever. They'll come up with an idea and they'll think it's somebody else's job to come up with a plan on how to enact that idea. Well, this alone doesn't necessarily guarantee that their idea is bad. It does prove that their understanding of it is incomplete. For instance, if a girl walks up to her father and says, I want a magical pony, and the dad says, okay, well that's interesting, how am I going to get you a magical pony? She says, I don't know. It's just an obvious example of not living in reality. There's no praxis there because magical ponies don't freaking exist. It's just a random childish dream soon to be crushed by the walls of reality. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of adult activists out there who basically do the same thing, just slightly more covert. For instance, all the people out there saying that they want free stuff. You'll notice that those kinds of people just mainly focus on how nice their idea sounds, as well as focusing on various moral justifications for that idea, but they never really focus on praxis, or when they do, they give you a really nonsensical or otherwise incomplete praxis, which is very common for people who lean towards communism because they don't want to admit the fact that their praxis always involves central planning, which is a very stupid and very inefficient economic system, and while it can potentially result in people being more equal, everyone just has equally less, so they just kind of skip that praxis. Or to be specific, they skip talking about that praxis because they know it doesn't actually sound as nice as their idea. And that's why you get a lot of useful idiot communists who don't know what the praxis is, but fight for it anyway because they like the idea. But on the flip side, you do have a few people who know full well what the praxis is. This is also a common problem with feminism. Feminists will identify a problem that women face, which may or may not be real or exaggerated, doesn't really matter in this context, and then demand equality. But again, not say much of anything about their praxis on how to make their cries for equality a reality. The whole practical application thing seems to be missing from their pitch a lot. And the reason for that is very simple, because the praxis of Western feminism is to just use the state to tax people, usually men, into paying for inefficient government programs, which often just make the ills of society worse. It's basically just a form of socialism with the caveat that it's socialism for the ladies mostly only. Or in other words, Western feminism, when the praxis is examined honestly, just reveals itself to be gender socialism. And a lot of people, once they realize this, immediately stop supporting modern feminism, especially smarter women, because they know that in the long run, this kind of thing is going to eventually be bad for women as well. And so what a lot of feminist organizations will do to avoid this is, of course, just flat out avoid talking about their praxis too much. This is why their cries for equality are always louder than their proposed solutions, because the actions they take on as solutions are always authoritarian and completely idiotic. They have no practical application of their theory beyond this gender socialism. TLDR, when it comes to political ideologies, always pay attention to praxis. If they talk about the beauty of their ideas and how nice it would be, significantly more than their plan of action to resolve said problems or bring their ideas to reality, or try to obfuscate or lie about their praxis, and especially if a sizable chunk of the people who support the ideology have absolutely no idea what the praxis even is, there's a solid chance that it's all a big grift. Anyways, thanks for watching, feel free to like, subscribe, till next time.